Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for Week 8 of this NFL season. You guys should know the drill by now. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into my top waiver wire targets. As I always do, though, in case I do have any first-time listeners, these players, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there is a good chance they're available in your leagues. There are a couple repeat names from last week's video, so hopefully you guys listen to me and you picked them up, but hopefully we'll see some roster ownership increase on those two guys after this wave of waiver wires. I kind of got hard to say there for a second. But yeah, quarterback out of the week. I mentioned him last week, the rookie quarterback for New England, Drake May. He's still available in 84% of the leagues right now. This past weekend in London, he had 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. And like I said last week, what I like about Drake is he's an athletic quarterback who can take off and run, especially when he's playing behind that line. He's going to have to do that throughout the season. He had 3 rushes for 18 yards. Now, in his 2 starts, he's finished with at least 240 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's something I mentioned last week about Drake May, is that this Patriots defense is not the greatest defense in the world. It's not the defense of the past underneath Bill Belichick. So they're going to be down like they were against Jacksonville, and they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, which is going to be able to provide Drake May opportunities to put up points for you in your fantasy lineups. Now, this week, though, I will admit he does draw a tough matchup. He's going against the Jets defense. They're allowing the 5th fewest points per game against quarterbacks this year. But if you do have a shaky quarterback situation on your rosters, I would at least pick up May and put him on your bench. Maybe you don't want to play him this week, but I would at least stash him, get ahead of this, because if he continues to get 240 plus passing yards and 2 touchdowns a game, you're talking about a guy that you can start putting in your lineups and trust him every single week. My running back out of the week, I am going to go with the backup running back in Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren. He's available in 59% of the leagues. We can't forget that he started this season with a hamstring injury. Those always kind of tend to linger. He had to miss some time at one point. But this past weekend, he had 12 rushes for 44 yards, and he had 2 receptions for 15 yards on 3 targets. This past game showed me that I think he looked the best with the ball in his hands this season. This was the first game where he touched the ball at least 12 times. Now, he's going against the Giants defense on Monday night. They're about middle of the pack against the running back position. I don't know if Jalen's a running back you want to pick up and put in your lineups. The way I view Jalen is just get him to stash on your bench for the right matchups. And then if you're a Najee Harris manager and you don't like your running back depth, I would definitely be picking up Jaylen Warren to have him as your handcuff in case something were to happen to Najee. It did seem like he was more involved in the passing attack with Russell Wilson in the lineup, especially in the screen game. I believe both of those catches, if I remember right, watching that game, both those catches did come on screens. One of them might have came off on a dump off. But that's the point, is they don't have a lot of offensive weapons, right? They have George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris. So Warren's going to have a role in this offense, and if he continues to get 12 plus touches every game, he's going to be entering the flex play going forward. Now, the next 2 guys I'm actually going to talk about at the same time, my wide receiver ad of the week and the flex ad of the week, because they're from the same team. First of all, Romeo Doubs, he's available in 55% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 8 receptions for 94 yards on 10 targets. In each of his last 3 games, he's gotten at least 8 targets in 2 of his last 3 games. And then for Dontavian Wicks, he's available in 73% of the leagues. This past weekend, he had 3 receptions for 48 yards and 1 touchdown on 6 targets. He's actually gotten at least 6 plus targets in 3 of his last 4 games. And the reason why I think the way I view the Packers wide receivers right now, I kind of view Jaden Reed as the top guy you could trust, even though he was more of the letdown guy this past weekend. But I feel like he's going to be the one guy you can lean on to be peppered at least every week in targets. But I think if these guys have the right matchup, you should be able to play them in the right matchup, which both of them have a great matchup this week, going against the Jaguars defense, who are allowing the 3rd most points per game against wide receivers. And here's the thing, too. Christian Watson, right? He's in that wide receiver corps. We've seen him be in and out of the lineup. He's been banged up this season. If he gets banged up, that increases the value for Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. And now, I don't think the Packers will do this, because if they're going to try to be going on a Super Bowl run, it doesn't make sense for them to get rid of one of their wide receivers. They should try to keep all that depth they have just to deal with any potential injuries throughout the season. But with all these wide receiver injuries across the league, right? We saw what happened with Tampa. We saw what happened with San Francisco. There's definitely an argument that Pittsburgh could need another wide receiver. There's definitely an argument that the Chiefs could need a wide receiver. So with them having a plethora of wide receivers, what if a team calls Green Bay and offers like somebody for, maybe they trade away Christian Watson to the Chiefs or something like that. Maybe Romeo Doubs is the guy that goes to the Chiefs or the Steelers. Also, and those guys have great value. The trade deadline in the NFL is November 5th. That's what, in 2 weeks from now. So you're talking about if these guys were to land in a different situation, or if one of the wide receivers were to get traded to a different situation, there's a path where both these guys can see their fantasy value increase. So that's why I think these guys should be stashed on benches at this point. But if you need a wide receiver to play this week, I definitely, like I mentioned, I like them because the Jaguars are allowing the third most fantasy points per game to the position. My tight end ad of the week, he was my tight end ad of the week last week, and he was my tight end ad of the week. I wanted to say also, like, at some point, this is his third appearance on my waiver wire targets. But Cade Otton, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end, he's available in 61% of the leagues. Obviously, it helped when Mike Evans got hurt. Chris Godwin obviously got hurt in the final 2 minutes, but this past Monday night, he had 8 receptions for 100 yards on 10 targets. And 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gotten at least 6 targets. You're probably going to see those at least 6 targets going forward, if not more, because Godwin's season's over, and then it sounds like Mike Evans is out for at least the next 3 games for Tampa Bay. Now they're going against the Falcons this weekend. The Falcons are in the middle of the pack as far as points per game allowed to tight end position. But in the first matchup, Otton did have 3 catches for 44 yards, which is all you could ask for out of your tight end. So I think he's definitely playable this week if you need some help out at the tight end position. Moving into my streamable defenses, as I always say, guys, streaming defenses is a risky business. It could be hit or miss. I always like to take the risk, but do understand there's always a risk if you're streaming a defense. These defenses, they do have to have 50% roster availability. So there's a good chance they're available out there. There's not really a lot of great options, I will admit. This is a little bit top heavy on this list this week. I will also say, before I dive into this list, there's some leagues I'm in where the Chiefs were available because people dropped them because they were playing the Niners. Chiefs got the Raiders this week, so if they're out there, I definitely prefer the Chiefs over one of these guys. There's some leagues too where the Ravens got dropped because they were playing that potent Bucs offense entering Monday night. Ravens got the Browns this week. I think they're definitely playable over most of these defenses. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're going to go pick up a defense off the waivers. If those defenses aren't available, or if you miss out on them, I would consider one of these 5 defenses, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 defenses, maybe the 4th one. I'm not sure about the 5th one. That's going to be like a big roll of the dice if you're very desperate. But yeah, let me go ahead and dive into it. My number 1 streaming defense, I'm going with the Lions against the Titans. The Lions are available in 80% of the leagues right now. This is a home game for Detroit, so I like that. Then Detroit is tied for the 5th most takeaways this season. Then they're going against a Titans offense who's tied for the 2nd most giveaways. So I definitely like the opportunity for interceptions and fumbles to happen in this game. And then the Lions do have a little bit of a floor to them if you want to stream them, because Titans are only averaging 17.7 points per game this season. That's tied for the 5th lowest in the league. My number 2 streaming defense, which this one might have some more value maybe than the Lions just because of what they have in their schedule over the next 3 weeks, but I like the Chargers against the Saints this week. Sounds like Spencer Rattler will be the starter. So obviously we've seen the Saints offenses completely fall apart because they got a rookie quarterback. Olave hasn't played. Shaheed's done for the season. They lost Cesar Ruiz, one of their best offensive linemen. And then they're going against this Chargers defense who has got Khalil Mack up front. Hopefully they get Joey Bosa back this week. Now this is a home game for the Chargers, which I know it doesn't mean much, but with how the Saints season's going right now, I don't expect a lot of Saints crowd in that LA LA Stadium. And then those Saints, they are tied for the third most giveaways, so there's that opportunity for turnovers, which can maybe result in touchdowns. And then the first point I made is I like their schedule, right? So if you pick up the stream the Chargers this week, in week 9 next week, they're going to play the Browns offense. And then in week 10, they're going to play the Titans. So if you stream the Chargers this week, you could stream them next week against the Browns, and then you could stream them the following week against the Titans. My number 3 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Packers defense against the Jaguars. The Packers defense has been playing great ball underneath their new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hatley. I saw one stat where over the last 4 or 5 games, they've only given up 22 points in the second half of those games. Obviously, the Jaguars looked like they kind of got back on track against that Patriots team in London. But I would expect them to kind of come back down to earth when they get back over here to America in their first home action in over 2 weeks. And then what I like about the Packers too is the Packers lead the NFL in takeaways. They got Xavier McKinney in the back end of the defense, who's forced like 6 or 7 interceptions this season. So I like the odds that they're going to be able to get some sacks and force some turnovers against this Jaguars offense, who has struggled for the most part this year. My number 4 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Texans against the Colts. This is a home game for Houston. The Texans are tied for the 4th most sacks. Then they're going against a Colts offense who is more of a up and down offense with Anthony Richardson in the lineup. The Colts are actually tied for the 5th most giveaways this season, so they have been giving the ball away, and obviously Anthony has struggled with the turnovers in his limited starts so far in his year 2 of the NFL. And then what I do like about this, I'm not sure if you really can trust it because we're going to have to see what this Jets offense is going to be, but if the Jets offense continues to struggle against the Patriots on Sunday, they do play the Jets next Thursday night. So there's a possible opportunity for you to stream the Texans this week and then the Jets next week. My number 5 streaming defense, I already hinted at it. I don't know if you really want to go after this defense. Like I mentioned, though, there just wasn't a lot of great options for me to choose as far as the defenses that qualify for my list. But I do got the Patriots on here against the Jets. The Patriots are available in 93% of the leagues. This is mainly just the giveaways, right? This is a home game for New England, first of all. But the Jets are tied for the 5th most giveaways. Aaron Rodgers is throwing more picks, I feel like, than I've ever seen him thrown in his career. And the Jets are just struggling on offense to find any type of rhythm and consistency. So this is going to be like a 12-14 team league stream. If you were to miss out on those 4 defenses or one of the other defenses like the Chiefs or the Ravens, if they happen to be available for you, this is an extremely roll of the dice. One thing, though, that could be some value if you wanted to stream the Patriots is they got the Titans next week in week 9. So there's a chance you could stream them against the Jets this week and then stream them against the Titans next week. But again, this is like a 12, 14 plus team league streaming option, in my opinion, if you're to strike out on all the other options available. So yeah, those are my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for week 8. As always, hit the like button, subscribe, or follow me on all my social media platforms. I'm on X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Other than that, you guys will get me tomorrow night for my top starts and sits for week 8. I'll see you then. Enjoy your night, evening, morning, weekend, whenever you're watching this. Peace out.